Harold Thompson sat alone in his grand mansion. The only sounds echoing through the halls were the ticking of an old grandfather clock and the occasional creak of the wooden floors. The mansion, once vibrant with the laughter and warmth of his beloved wife Eleanor, now felt cold and empty. It had been 10 years since Eleanor passed away, and in that time, Harold had grown accustomed to the silence. He was a man of immense wealth, but money did little to fill the void left by Eleanor's absence. They had no children, no family to carry on their legacy, and Harold had resigned himself to a life of solitude. One rainy afternoon, as Harold wandered aimlessly through the vast rooms of his mansion, he found himself in the attic. It was a place he seldom visited, filled with old furniture, forgotten memories, and the dust of years gone by. As he moved a stack of old books, something caught his eye. A small, worn box tucked away in a corner. Intrigued, Harold carefully pulled the box out and brushed off the dust that had settled on it. The box was unremarkable in appearance, but as Harold opened it, he felt a strange sense of anticipation. Inside, neatly stacked, were dozens of letters. The handwriting on the envelopes was unmistakable, Eleanor's. But these letters were addressed to him, and yet he had never seen them before. A wave of curiosity washed over him as he wondered why Eleanor had written these letters but never sent them. With trembling hands, Harold picked up the first letter and began to read. The words on the page were filled with love, but there was something more, an undercurrent of sadness and unspoken wishes. Harold's heart ached as he realized that these letters contained Eleanor's deepest thoughts she had never shared with him during their life together. Why had she kept these letters hidden? What secrets did they hold? Harold felt a knot of anxiety tightening in his chest as he contemplated Harold spent the rest of the day reading through the letters, each one revealing more about Eleanor's inner world. She had written about their life together, her love for him, but also her fears, regrets, and the dreams she had never fulfilled. Harold felt a profound sense of sorrow as he realized how much he had missed, how much he had been unaware of. The woman he thought he knew so well had kept parts of herself hidden, and now, through these letters, he was discovering a side of Eleanor that one letter in particular stood out. It was dated just a year before Eleanor passed away. In it, she wrote about a small village in Italy that she had always dreamed of visiting. She described it in vivid detail: the cobblestone streets, the old churches, the smell of fresh bread wafting from the bakeries. It was a place she had read about in a book and had longed to see with her own eyes. But life had gotten in the way. Harold's business, their commitments, and the responsibilities of their everyday lives had prevented them from ever making the trip. As Harold read her words, he could feel the longing in her writing, the quiet resignation that she would never see this place she had dreamed of for so long. A deep sadness washed over him, but with it came a sense of resolve. Eleanor had left this world with unfulfilled dreams, but Harold was still here. He could honor her memory by fulfilling those dreams for her. The realization hit him like a bolt of lightning. This was something he could do. This was how he could reconnect with Eleanor even after her passing. The thought of it filled him with a sense of purpose that he hadn't felt in years. The journey wouldn't be easy, and there were many questions he still needed to answer, but Harold knew that this was something he had to do. With a newfound determination, Harold carefully placed the letters back in the box. He would start with the village in Italy, the place Eleanor had dreamed of, and from there, he would see where the letters led him, step by step, fulfilling the wishes of the woman he had loved so deeply. Harold sat in his study, the dim light from the fireplace casting flickering shadows on the walls. The box of letters sat on the table before him, a Pandora's box that had unleashed a flood of emotions and memory. Each letter he read revealed a different aspect of Eleanor, one he had never truly understood. As he read, Harold was transported back in time, to moments in their marriage where Eleanor's unspoken desires had been overshadowed by his own ambitions. In one letter, Eleanor wrote about a time when Harold was consumed by a business deal that kept him away for weeks. She had longed for him to return, not just physically, but emotionally. She had planned a special dinner, hoping to rekindle the connection they once shared. But Harold had arrived late, distracted by work, barely noticing the effort she had put into the evening. The flashback played vividly in Harold's mind, and he could see Eleanor's disappointment, though she had never voiced it. Instead, she wrote about it in the letter, a silent plea that went unheard. Harold's heart ached as he recalled these moments, now seen through the lens of Eleanor's words. He had been too absorbed in his own world, too focused on success and wealth to notice the quiet signals Eleanor had given him. These reflections deepened his sorrow, but also ignited a burning desire to make amends, even if it was too late to do so in person. He continued reading, finding more letters that revealed Eleanor's love for art, her desire to travel, and her yearning for a life filled with adventure. These were things she had quietly set aside for him. For the life they built together, Harold felt a wave of guilt and regret wash over him. But with it came a determination to honor her memory by fulfilling the dreams she never realized. The discovery of the letters began to change Harold in ways he hadn't anticipated. He found himself reaching out to people he had distanced himself from after Eleanor's death. He reconnected with Robert, his oldest friend, who had been a steady presence in his life but whom Harold had pushed away in his grief. Their renewed friendship brought warmth and comfort to Harold, something he hadn't felt in years. As Harold shared the story of the letters with Robert, they talked late into the night about life, love, and the things that truly mattered. Robert listened with understanding as Harold expressed his regrets and the sense of purpose the letters had given him. These conversations revealed a side of Harold that had been buried under years of loneliness and sorrow, a side that was now resurfacing as he opened himself up to the people around him. The letters also guided Harold to make a decision. He would travel to the places Eleanor had dreamed of visiting, starting with the village in Italy. It was a small village nestled in the hills, known for its picturesque scenery and charming old-world atmosphere. Eleanor had written about it with such passion that Harold could almost see it through her eyes. With Robert's encouragement, Harold made the necessary arrangements. It was a daunting task for a man of his age, but the thought of seeing the world through Eleanor's eyes filled him with a sense of excitement he hadn't felt in years. As he packed his bags, Harold felt a mix of emotions: anticipation, sorrow, and a strange, bittersweet joy. He was finally embarking on a journey that was not just about fulfilling Eleanor's wishes, but about rediscovering himself in the process. As Harold continued his journey, he delved deeper into the letters, each one revealing more about Eleanor's life, her thoughts, and her secrets. One particular letter caught his attention. It was from a time before they were married, a letter that spoke of a man named Luca. Eleanor had met Luca during a solo trip to Italy, and they had formed a close friendship. The letter made it clear that their relationship was purely platonic, but Harold couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. Eleanor had never mentioned Luca to him, and the thought of her sharing her dreams and thoughts with another man troubled Harold deeply. He began to question whether he had ever truly known his wife, or if he had been too wrapped up in his own life to see her for who she really was. This realization brought a wave of guilt crashing down on him. Guilt for not being more attentive, for not making more time for her, and for not giving her the adventure she had longed for. The main conflict in Harold's heart was now clear. He was struggling with the image of the woman he had loved and the reality of who she was, as revealed through her letters. The jealousy he felt was irrational. He knew that. But it was there nonetheless, a reminder of his own shortcomings. He began to fear what other secrets the letters might hold, and whether he could handle the truth about the woman he had spent his life with. Harold's journey brought him to Italy, to the very village Eleanor had written about with such affection. The cobblestone streets, the old churches, and the smell of fresh bread were just as she had described them. It was a beautiful place. But for Harold, it was tinged with a bittersweet sadness. As he walked through the village, he couldn't help but think of Eleanor and the life they could have had, if only he had been more attentive to her desires. During his stay, Harold decided to seek out Luca, the man Eleanor had befriended all those years ago. He found Luca, now an elderly man himself, living a quiet life in the village. Their meeting was both awkward and emotional. Harold was hesitant, unsure of how to approach the subject of Eleanor, but Luca welcomed him with open arms. As they talked, Luca shared stories of Eleanor, painting a picture of a vibrant, passionate woman who had a zest for life that Harold had only glimpsed. Luca spoke of their friendship, how they had connected over their shared love of art and history, and how Eleanor had often spoken of Harold with great love and admiration. Luca revealed that Eleanor had planned to visit him one last time before she passed, but had been unable to due to her illness. The conversation with Luca was a turning point. He realized that Eleanor had lived a full life, even if parts of it were unknown to him. The plot twist came when Luca handed Harold a final, unopened letter from Eleanor. It was a letter she had written in her final days, a letter meant for Harold but never sent. In it, Eleanor expressed her hope that Harold would find happiness and peace after her death. She encouraged him to live fully, to embrace life, and to find joy in the world around him, even without her by his side. This revelation was a profound moment for Harold. Eleanor's words were filled with love and wisdom, and they gave Harold the strength to continue his journey with a renewed sense of purpose. He knew now that his mission was not just about fulfilling Eleanor's dreams, but about finding peace within himself. Harold's journey was nearing its end, but the lessons he had learned along the way were just beginning to take root. As he reflected on the letters, on the memories of Eleanor, and on the people he had met, Harold realized that he had spent too much of his life focused on wealth, success, and status. He had neglected the things that truly mattered, the love, the connections, and the simple joys of life. The greatest tension arose as Harold confronted his own mortality. He was an old man, and he knew that his time was limited. The realization that he had so little time left to make things right weighed heavily. He felt a deep sorrow for the lost opportunities, the moments he could never get back, and the time he had wasted on things that now seemed so insignificant. But with this sorrow came a sense of determination. Harold knew that he could not change the past, but he could shape the future. He began to take steps to atone for his past mistakes. He started by donating large portions of his fortune to causes Eleanor had cared about, charities that supported the arts, education, and the preservation of. He knew that this was a way to honor her memory and to make a positive impact on the world, something he had neglected for too long. Harold also reached out to those he had wronged or neglected over the years. He sought forgiveness from old friends, made amends with distant relatives, and reconnected with people who had once been important to him. The consequences of his actions were evident. He was no longer the cold, distant man he had been. Harold was changing, and with that change came a sense of peace and fulfillment that he had never known before. The final leg of Harold's journey took him to a quiet seaside town, the last destination on Eleanor's list. It was a place she had always dreamed of retiring to, a place where she could sit by the sea and watch the waves roll in, lost in her thoughts. Harold stood on the shore, the salty breeze in his face, and felt a sense of calm wash over him. As he sat on a bench overlooking the sea, Harold took out a pen and paper. He began to write his own letter to Eleanor. It was a letter filled with love, regret, and gratitude. He expressed his sorrow for the things he had missed, his love for her that had never wavered, and his gratitude for the life they had shared. He told her about the journey he had taken, the places he had seen, and the peace he had found along the way. As he finished the letter, Harold felt a weight lift off his shoulders. He knew that Eleanor had been guiding him all along, through the letters, through the memories, and through the people he had met. She had shown him the way to peace, to forgiveness, and to a life filled with meaning. As Harold closed his eyes and smiled, content with the life he had lived, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the sea. The journey had brought him peace, and with it, a sense of fulfillment that money could never buy. Now, as he sat on that bench, he felt a deep connection to Eleanor, knowing that he had honored her memory in the best way he could. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment below. I love reading your thoughts and reflections on these tales. They truly make my day.